Today, ring that bell on bail-in. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. I'm joined by Robbie Barwick from the Citizens Party. Hi, Robbie.
Hello, Malcolm. So again, hello, Martin. You might keep this one in, this blooper in, because there's a reason I said Malcolm. He's on my mind. It's his bill.
Okay, yes. Right. Robbie, I got your name right. It's a really critical week, isn't it? Because now's the chance to make those calls into Canberra where the pollies are actually there.
They are. This is crucial. So we're going to be talking about bail-in. On the 30th of November, there will be a debate and vote in the Senate on Senator Malcolm Roberts' bill, hence my faux pas, to end bail-in, any possibility of bail-in in Australia, right? So we want people to vote for this bill, the people in the Senate to vote for this bill. And it takes bail-in off the table. It says deposits cannot be bailed in, puts that in the Banking Act, makes it explicit, right? So that happens on the 30th. This week, there is a 1 week sitting of Parliament, which is the only sitting of Parliament before that vote, because that happens on a Monday, at the very beginning of the next sitting of Parliament. And what that creates is an opportunity that this week we can get people while they're in Parliament. And if we can ring that bell, as you said, everyone hit the phones this week. If you've already made calls, make them again, but make them into the parliamentary offices. Call your 12 senators and your local member of Parliament, right? But in their Canberra offices, that's where you need to call them. We need to create a shock effect. So that they are in no doubt that the public want them to pass this bill, right? And this is a call to arms. Hit the phones. We have an opportunity, and I want to give you something that happened in the Senate yesterday, Martin, that gives me confidence. It's not confidence that we will win. It's confidence we can win. There were two votes in the Senate that are very significant. The first was the Senate voted for a resolution to oppose the watering down of the responsible lending laws. Now, that resolution doesn't stop that, but Josh Frydenberg is trying to get a bill through Parliament to water down responsible lending laws, right? The Senate has fired a shot across the bow and said, no, they're not going to do that. And when you see something like that, it means the Labor Party has voted for it, right? And it's not that common for the Labor Party to take a stand on such an issue, especially when it comes to the banks, frankly, right? That happened yesterday. I think more significantly, there was another Senate vote yesterday to support Julian Assange. And that also passed. And again, the Labor Party voted for it. Now, whatever side you are on the Assange issue, I'm pro Assange, right? I think I really support this resolution. I'm quite excited about it. But when Assange first got into trouble, it was a Labor government in power, and they were awful to him. Julia Gillard called him a traitor and all sorts of things. This is a big deal that yesterday Labor voted for this resolution vis-a-vis Assange, right? It shows you that there are shifting sands. It shows you that nothing's set in stone, right? If those votes can happen yesterday, the Senate on the 30th of November can vote for this bill to end bail-in, knowing that it'll be much more popular to anyone in the public who knows about it, right? But they're only going to do it if they feel overwhelming demand from the public to do it, and that's only going to come by people picking up the phone and making calls. Followed up with emails, etc. Please make calls this week into the Senate. Make sure the phones ring off the hook. It will create a shockwave in there, I can assure you. That's how the building works.
Yeah, Robbie, and it's just important to underscore, the tides are turning at the moment. I guess you could look to the US and say, well, there's some interesting changes in the wind there. And maybe Labor's beginning to find its mojo. So maybe this is an opportunity to help to drive the better outcomes for Australians.
Well, it's one of those things. Yeah, most of the problems that I have had with Labor for a long time is their kind of political gutlessness, right? So, for instance, you know, they claim credit for the Royal Commission, but they were, you know, they just voted for it before the Liberals voted for it. They resisted it for a long time as well, because, you know, they tend to be too beholden to vested interests. But that's not set in stone. That's not an ironclad part of the system. That can change quite quickly, and sometimes there's a bit of a sniff of enthusiasm, or sometimes a sniff of blood, and they go, "Yo, we could take advantage of it, fine." But for whatever motivation, do it. There's nothing in it for Labor to protect the government from this bail-in law. Nothing, right? The only reason they would is because they're choosing to protect the banks. And if they want to align with the government over that, well, we'll make sure they never forget it. But that's a big deal for them to do it. We actually psychologically have the upper hand here. They just have to know that when they justify voting for Malcolm Roberts' bill, they say, look, this is what the public want. And they'll know that, right, by the number of calls they get in the next 3 weeks, but especially this week when they're in Parliament. After this week, for 2 weeks, they're not in Parliament, and you need to make their calls to their home offices. But this week they're in Parliament, and we need to, everyone, hit the phones, right? We can create a shockwave in the building.
Yeah, and just remember what John Hewitson said, you know, this is blindingly sensible.
A no-brainer. Pass this and it's off the table.
Yep.
All it does is deliver. The last time you and I spoke, Martin, was with Malcolm Roberts live on the show, right? Yes. He just come from grilling the APRA on this, right? And he said, why would you oppose something that is, you say, you know, just clarifies what you say anyway. And when he asked that question, all Wayne Byers could say was, it's unnecessary. And what's significant about that is Wayne Byers couldn't point to a downside. He couldn't say there's something bad about Malcolm Roberts' bill that will have unforeseen consequences. He couldn't say that. It's perfectly neutral, except for this fact. It makes sure that bail-in cannot happen to bank deposits in Australia. And that's, you know, they can't argue with it. And if they say it's unnecessary, you know, just tell them, to you it is necessary, right? You've got to vote for this.
Yep. And the point is, it takes all the ambiguity and doubt away. Yep. It takes all of those sort of cross-leverage clauses in various things that they try to stand behind. But it also, of course, restricts their ability to do things behind the back of the public. So from every perspective, this is something that should be supported, should be passed. So pick up those phones, folks, make a fuss, and make sure that your senators know that this needs to be passed.
Yes, and just one, look, I'm hoping, we've discussed this for so long now, a lot of people who watch this show would have some experience in making calls on these matters. If you've called for the first time and you're feeling a bit intimidated, don't worry. It's as simple as calling up, saying who you are, and saying, I'm calling to say I want you to vote for Senator Roberts' bill on bail-in. That's all you got to say. Yep. Say goodbye. You can be as polite as you like. You can be as angry as you like. Whatever you want to do, right? Just something that basic. You don't have to be a Philadelphia lawyer. I don't know if that expression's still in vogue. You know, be on top of it. You don't have to be on top of every detail of all that kind of stuff. You don't have to convince the person. You just have to state your position. And if you're one of thousands of calls they're getting, they will get the message.
And Robbie, I'll just tell you briefly, I've had more than a dozen people contact me and said, I've done it. Never thought I would, but I did pick up the phone, and you know, it was simple. So the fact is, ordinary Australians, people who really care about this issue, you've got an opportunity to make your voice heard. So go for it.
So what we should do, Martin, is we'll put the link to Parliament House Senator and members' contact details below.
Yep.
When you bring that, when you go to your state, bring up the senators from your state, you will see their Parliament House number, the 02 number. That's the number to call, right? Make sure you call that one. Also, if you want to brush up on the facts of bail-in, we can put another link below, which is this 3-minute or 2.5-minute ad I did, explaining just the bail-in as simply as possible. Just brush up on that if you want, and feel free to share that link with members of Parliament. You can follow it up by emailing it to them, right? I'm just explaining the issue of bail-in and why this bill is so important.
Yeah, and we'll put the link to the previous live show that you did and I did with Malcolm Roberts too, for people who want to go into it in more detail, because that was actually quite a powerful conversation. So yeah, there's plenty of information around. It's not actually hard to do, but it can make a huge difference if it takes all the fear and doubt about deposits away. And in the current environment, that's a really good thing in my view. Therefore, this is a very sensible measure. It's a very simple change. Get the senators to vote for it.
Yep, exactly. Go hard, people.
Thanks, Robbie. We'll catch you, and we'll give people an update down the track.